I don't even really know where to start off with this video today. There's so much that has gone on since the last week's episode. Friday, when Trump Coin launched, was a day that I'll never forget. In my crypto career, I think there's many days that we've had that were unforgettable, good and very bad ones. And that was one that I will never forget because I think it was a signal from the very highest parts of power that crypto is something that is taking the world by storm, to the point where I know it's, like some people are saying don't make such a big deal out of the Trump coin thing. It's not that big of a deal, but in reality for crypto, if you look at the last cycle, 2021, the huge uptick we had in interest and price action for crypto, at that time there was no institutional backing. There were no institutions that even would talk about crypto or legitimize it. In fact, most people at the tops of the financial institutions were dismissing it, and had been dismissing it for years and years and years. And now we're at the point where these same financial institutions are the ones that are the purporters of it, the ones who believe in it and are sharing the same visions that we've talked about for several years now. And I think the individuals, average retail investors that get interested in crypto, they come to this conclusion quicker than maybe those that are in industries that could potentially be completely flipped upside down, the financial industry being one of them, because of the technology that we have in crypto, right? Or blockchain as a whole completely changed the way people do things. But what I'm here to talk about today is more related to the sentiment of the market and what I'm doing with my positions, as always, and my portfolio to adjust accordingly to where I think we are in the cycle. And I think where we are right now is a place, and my feeling and my intuition is that I do have some big bets or places of conviction, one of them being the crypto AI narrative. And I believe it's a speculative narrative, a narrative that is based on speculation and hype, just like most of crypto. I don't believe that fundamentally you should be holding on to these things, or I will be holding on to these things for any long-term period of time. But that is where I'm going to choose to put capital. I think what people even in crypto haven't fully come to terms with is that where we are now in this cycle versus where we were in 2021 is completely different. In 2021, it was a lot easier to make money. It was a lot easier to pick an altcoin and say, hey, I think this is going to go 5-10x. And, you're probably going to feel right about it because the price would go up. But that was generally because liquidity was much more concentrated, and it was in a fewer plays. And the hot ball of money that was moving around was generally less educated and less of these advanced traders that we now have in the market. Where we are today is that people understand that this is an attention economy, and there's two different markets that exist for crypto. There's the retail, like the true retail, who are just trying to buy Bitcoin, just trying to buy ETFs, just trying to get exposure to crypto as a whole because they believe, hey, I don't want to miss on this long term. But then there's the crypto degens, diehards, that are the people who are actively trading where the attention is going. And I would say I'm a little bit in the middle of both of these, because I think the play here, and the play has been, to err on the side of just doing the basics, buying the index funds, buying Bitcoin, and really not thinking about this too much, not trying to change your mind every single day about what you think is going to happen in the market, et cetera, et cetera. And if you are not going to deploy that strategy, to then go and actually have to be all the way on the other side of that, which is essentially, well, what are the most speculative and the most hype and narrative-driven assets that we can hold that will potentially give us that 10, 20x return? And so being somewhere in the middle of that, or trying to just basically pick a bunch of mid-cap altcoins and think that you're going to do well, I think is not going to be the most successful trade from here on out. And I also think that holding altcoins, the longer we go into 2025, is going to be riskier and riskier and riskier. And the risk reward of holding most altcoins is not going to be valid. And for me, I'm in a position where when the whole Trump coin thing happened and we saw massive exits of liquidity from most of these other on-chain projects, I'm talking like millions and millions of dollars, leaving all of these smaller projects, causing them to crash 40, 50, 60% just to get into this Trump coin, just to try and catch this wave. It made me realize the sentiment of the market is so speculative. It is so greedy right now that it makes me want to de-risk completely, pretty much from the markets in the sense that I'd rather just hold the ETFs. I'd rather hold Bitcoin. I'd rather hold the things that I know I'm not going to be upset with holding for the next 3, 5, 10, 20 years. And we can only say that that thesis of holding long-term is valid for a very few amount of assets. And in the crypto space, that's Bitcoin. Now, I know this is not a glamorous or interesting or popular thing to talk about because right now we might be getting into the most parabolic part of this cycle. But I think this is where I'm at. And intuitively, I am now definitely going from the perspective of trying to extract value from the market to when I am extracting, or if there are positions that I'm up on, if there are things that start really popping off, I am going to start taking profits pretty aggressively. And that is just the mindset I'm in right now. And this is the reason I'm saying this now is because I think the right time to do this will probably be 2, 3, 4, 5 months from now. But I'm getting ready to do it now because, guys, we've been playing this market since the start of 2023. I took my first trade on Bitcoin, and I should have been buying Bitcoin in 2022, but I wasn't aggressive enough in seeing the trend in the shift in the market. I wasn't convinced enough in 2022 that we were actually seeing a bottom. But in 2023, and I have the receipts on Twitter of like when I took my first Bitcoin trade, when I started actively getting back into the markets, and it's been more than 2 years now since then. And that whole time, there was periods of time where I was skeptical on the continuation of the market to the upside because we had already seen a lot of greed, a lot of kind of euphoria entering the markets. But that was really for the hardcore crypto people. And so I'm telling you right now, and I know this is probably for some people boring or a monologue they didn't want to hear, but I'm telling you right now that I think this is not the time to be putting on extra risk. This is the time to be looking at your probably already risky altcoin portfolio, which again, like the stuff I'm in is incredibly speculative, highly, high risk. But I just think that these will catch a bid because of the fact that the speculation and the greed is going to reach a point that is so high that it'll be unfortunate to miss that move. But that means that we're closer to the end of the cycle for a lot of this stuff than we are the beginning. And, you can go and listen to a lot of analysts, people who really know what they're talking about when it comes to crypto. And a lot of them believe that we're in a cycle that is even going to see a large downtrend in Bitcoin. This is where I agree a little bit less. I think, like I said, I personally believe that the markets have fundamentally changed because of the ETFs and the constant bid that those give Bitcoin. So I think that Bitcoin, it has already traded in a much different manner to before it had an ETF. If you really look at the volatility and the price action of Bitcoin now versus before the ETF, it has been less volatile, and it's been volatile in the right direction, up. Rather than, hitting 100K and then dropping 50% like these altcoins do that don't have that passive bid, that don't have people with the conviction to just hold this thing 10 to 15 years from now. So all that being said, 10 minutes of complete babble, but it is important, guys. If I'm going to get on here and talk to you guys every single week about crypto, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I'm going to potentially tell you things that you don't want to hear, but this is, again, me sharing my thoughts on the market, where my intuition lies, and then obviously wanting to hear from you guys. Now, I even got some questions or some comments on the last video about, how I've transitioned a little bit from talking about some solid, quote unquote, fundamentally sound projects to maybe talking about things that are more meme-like. To give you an example, probably all of the AI degenerate gambling coins, hyper gambling coins, these are more like memes than they are fundamentally sound projects. But this goes back to my point of, look at Farcoin, guys. Farcoin has no fundamental value. There's nothing about it that really suggests that it should be worth $1 billion, but the market decides that it's worth $1 billion. And the market also is deciding and believing that it's going to go higher. So yeah, do you think that I wake up every day and say, I'm really happy that my solid investment is, or my solid conviction is in Farcoin? No, I'm just looking at the market and saying, this is the trend and where the market believes that there's going to be higher prices, and they're pricing it in real time. People are buying Farcoin right now believing that it's going to go higher in the future. So they are trying to front run that. And so if I'm going to take that extra risk, if it's not going to be Bitcoin, if it's not going to be ETFs, then it's going to go all the way to the end of the risk curve, to things like Farcoin, to things like GOAT, and to the other things that are in this crypto/AI narrative. Because I've told you in my previous episodes that that's where I think it's actually worth gambling, because there's actually potential that there's a good shot that you do well, because of the fact that, yes, there's a lot of AI coins and there's going to be a million agent infrastructure plays and this, that, and the other, but there's already been a select few that I believe, even though a lot of crypto Twitter and then people in the space believe they aren't necessarily winners. I think with the amount of time we have left to capitalize on this move, I think there are some winners that have identified themselves. And so I think one of them is Virtual's Protocol. I think it'll do well. I think AI16Z is one where I have a large bag of. And the last time I talked about AI16Z, since then it's gone down like 60% and is now recovering. This is when I'm buying, because I believe that I think it's going to go higher. So I am allocating more to this because I believe it'll go higher. And then, guys, all of these gains, everything that happens with these projects, it's all going to rotate back into the most conservative plays possible. AIXBT is another one where I haven't sold any of my position yet. It's almost at all-time highs, but I don't think it's had this huge, greedy, euphoric run yet, even though it's gone all the way to $1 billion. But because I think it actually has, again, like this quote-unquote sentient meme vibe to it, where it's like, guys, we sent static memes. We sent a picture of a frog. We sent Pepe, Mog, these pretty basic things, memes. People got behind it and sent these things to valuations of $10 billion and greater. Doge is a perfect example of it's just a dog. It's a dog meme. It's a dog coin. But it has this incredible energy behind it that has kept it around, and it is actually one of the longest lasting projects in the space, and it's a meme coin. So you have to take this space seriously and understand that this is not a market we've ever seen before. The crypto markets is the closest thing to an open financial system that has ever existed. And so anything goes. And if you're really talking about why you're here or what you're trying to accomplish, for me, I'm trying to accomplish long-term success by finding those winners, the technology that I think will last. I think Solana, the things with network effects, right? Like Bitcoin, Solana has proven that it has a real network effect behind it. It's the pick and the shovel. The people searching for gold, they need the pick and the shovel, and Solana could be that in the long term. Ethereum, that's why I've loved Ethereum, even though it hasn't performed, is because it could be that. So that's where I'm looking to put any of the gains that I make from these kind of riskier things. But understand that the probability of being successful in these things has never been lower than today, because of how thin the liquidity is, how front run most of these projects are, even when they're released, because there's cabals and there's people who are insiders who are trading and manipulating price. So it's like, for the individual, myself, just the average guy who's trying to put his best step forward in this market, it's the boring stuff. But for now, like I said, I'm still in AIXBT. I'm still in GOAT. I'm still in AI16Z. Tau hasn't performed very well. Tau is one of those things that I think I fell into the trap that I did last cycle of like, this has the fundamentals. This has the legs long term. They're trying to build something long term, but it doesn't mean the market agrees. And I have a very big bag of Tau that hasn't done anything. I mean, obviously I got in early enough where it has made money, but like, if I really look at the risk I'm taking in that project versus the reward the last year or two, it hasn't been worth it. But I'm not going to sell. Haven't capitulated on it yet. But this is just the truth. And so I think people have talked about it. It's kind of the idea of mid-curving the cycle and thinking that, this super on the surface degen stuff is not going to perform, but then in reality, this fundamentally sound stuff that you thought was going to perform doesn't catch a bid. So I hope you got some value out of this, guys. I hope you understand where my mind is at this point in time and why I'm talking about the things I talk about. And yeah, hopefully you get some value from it. Hopefully you realize that the mission here is not to have some pretense that I know everything or like I know the future or what's going to happen. The reality is like we're looking at this from a probabilistic standpoint. I've said that word in almost every video. How can I win with the least amount of risk in an asset class that I know is going to be very successful moving forward because it's already been the most successful, fastest growing asset class in history. That's what I'm trying to do. And so when I come on here and talk about random hyper gamble AI coins, it's not because I think that that's the future and whatever. It's because I think that this is where the gamblers are going. There's a good chance right now that this is where the hype is going to be for the end of this part of the cycle towards the end. So look at the basket of assets that kind of meet the criteria for crypto/AI and decide if you want to allocate, and that's totally up to you. If you guys are not following me on Twitter, that's where you'll get details of exactly what projects I'm in, and I'm sharing charts and sharing my thoughts on a real-time basis, so you'll get quicker information there than here. Make sure to like the video, guys, subscribe, go check out the podcast. Alex is in Japan right now, so we're not able to record, but when he gets back, we're going to have plenty to talk about, and I'm itching to talk about what has gone on in the market the last couple of days with him in a longer form. So appreciate every single one of you guys. Can't believe I've spoke for 17 minutes. That's shocking. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.